Hi, guys. We are going to work on our project. I am gonna try to finish this granny square sweater that I'm working on. It's about to be 70 degrees. I'm so excited. But I'm also working on so many other things like this huge blanket that I'm gonna be making with orange roses at the end and a bunch of other sweaters. But today I just want to work on my granny square sweater while listening to Let's Not Meet, a true horror podcast. And this episode, we're going to listen to God Said I Belong to Him. Ooh, and so let's get started. I'm super interested or excited to hear some horror.
The new Huggies.
So I'm just gonna
Let's
fast
Not Meet
forward. Let's Not Meet is a true horror podcast. You can submit your own story, and it's really short stories, so it's really fun. They go by really quick, and so I'm really excited. And yeah, grab some coffee, grab some tea, get your project out, and let's crochet knit. And yeah, if you guys have any questions, let me know on the side. I'll try to answer as fast as I can.
The road again this year. Phoenix, Arizona, I'll be at Rebel Lounge on November 17th. St. Paul, Minnesota at Turf Club on November 19th. And Chicago, Illinois.
Hope you guys can hear. I'm gonna go get my coffee real quick. I'm gonna grab my hook real quick and coffee.
As a longtime fan of Let's Not Meet, I have found the inspiration and courage to share a story that has haunted my brother and me for a while. In 2007, I was heading into my sophomore year of college, and my brother Martin was still in high school. We have two much younger siblings, and at the time, they were around elementary school age. My parents decided to take a cruise for their 20th wedding anniversary that year, so my brother and I were told to watch the younger brother and sister, Cole and Charlotte. My brother's best friend, Christian, stayed with us while my parents were gone, and he helped us to plan fun activities with the younger siblings. One idea they were particularly excited about was taking a camping trip, as our family had never been very outdoorsy. Their eyes lit up at the prospect of cooking our dinner over a campfire and fishing in a stream.
I feel that.
Since it was early summertime, we had great luck with the weather since it was warm but not too hot, with clear skies, perfect for stargazing. Finally packed and ready for the somewhat long drive to the mountains, we checked into our campsite before dark, and Cole and Charlotte helped us to set up the tent. It was strange, but there were no other people at the campground, which was unusual for this time of year. Once we finished dinner, Cole and Charlotte were ready for sleep, so Martin, Christian, and I stayed awake a little bit longer so that we could catch up and get things ready for the next morning. Then, suddenly, a white Astrovan pulled up in the camping spot directly next to ours.
That's not good.
This person had dozens of unoccupied spaces to choose from, but chose to park right next to us. "Oh well," Christian said. "At least we'll have company now." Christian then called out a quick and polite "hello" to our new neighbor. But he didn't get a response back. I got an uneasy feeling almost immediately, but I decided to push it aside as I continued to get the fishing poles ready for the morning and put the food away to ward off the bears and other wild animals. Over the next hour or so, things started to get a bit weird. The man who parked next to us eventually got out of his van and sat at a picnic table as he built a small fire. The roaring fire that we had made had a lot of light, so I could see that he was looking directly at us. His fire died out completely several minutes later, but he continued just sitting there, staring.
Creepy.
I could feel the stares, but I couldn't see his face anymore. He was just sitting there, breathing audibly. Christian and Martin noticed that I was uneasy, so they picked up on how creepy the situation was starting to become. Martin whispered, "Why is he breathing like that? I don't feel safe anymore." I told Christian and Martin that I was going to stay awake since I didn't trust this guy. As soon as they moved from the fire to go into their tents, the man rose from the picnic table and started moving toward us. I called out, "Hello," to him, and I was once again met with no response. Finally, in a panic, I demanded that we pack up and get out of there immediately. Christian and Martin got out of their tents and saw the figure of the man just standing there, staring at us, still breathing deeply. We tried to stay as quiet and as calm as possible so that we wouldn't alarm Cole and Charlotte while we packed up. After throwing everything into the trunk, we drove away, not looking back. Before leaving the campsite itself, I asked if we could go to the check-in area at the lodge to see what the hell was going on, and maybe see if they knew anything more. I just wanted to know, what was this guy's deal? But to my surprise, there was nobody else registered at the campsite that evening. And the story doesn't end there. About 6 months later, when I was officially in my sophomore year of college, a local hiker went missing in a county over from where we had camped and where I went to college. She was doing something so normal. She was just hiking with her dog. Sadly, she turned up several months later, murdered, and found in a white Astro van. When the news finally released photos of the van and the man's face, I saw that it was him, the same guy. I got a phone call from both my brother and his friend when the story broke, since they had recognized him too. Several years later, we came to find out that it wasn't his first murder. He became known as the National Forest serial killer. I sincerely mean it when I say that I am incredibly cautious as a camper now because of this encounter. Thinking that it could have been us or my younger siblings still gives me nightmares to this day. Christian, Martin, and I recently had a reunion, and we talked about what happened that night, even though more than 15 years have gone by. It was amazing. We were consistent with recalling every detail, as they are etched in our memories forever. So creepy, heavy-breathing would-be serial killer lurking at a nearby campsite. Let's never, ever meet. At my old job, 2 of my coworkers and I had gone on a work trip. One of them was a man and the other was a woman. Everything went well at first. We just did what we were there to do. The first night, I was really tired, so when my coworker invited me to go to dinner, I declined and went back to the hotel room. The next day, my male coworker was kind of acting quiet and insisted that I sit in the front seat of the car instead of the back. I thought that it was strange, but didn't think too much on it. After we were done working, my female coworker invited us to have some drinks in her room. I figured why not? A couple of beers wouldn't hurt. Everything was normal at first. We drank, talked, and had fun. But then all of a sudden, she started flirting with our male coworker, telling him he should get more comfortable and take his shirt off. Mind you, he's happily married, and so is she. This understandably made him uncomfortable, so he told us that he was going to go to bed. I'm sure many of you are thinking that I should have said something, but let me provide some context. Both of them are fairly older than me, and this was my first job. While I thought my female coworker's remark was inappropriate, I didn't know what to make of the interaction. Weirdly, I also thought they were just flirting. After our male coworker left, I decided to stay, and this ended up being a huge mistake. Up until then, the female coworker's behavior toward me wasn't alarming. She then started showing me pictures of her kids and family, but then she pulled up this page for some model on Instagram. Now, the model didn't have very many followers, but he was a physically attractive guy. She told me that they were having an affair, and that she'd soon be divorcing her husband to run away with him.
No.
Her demeanor completely changed as she divulged this information. It's hard to describe, but her eyes essentially went wild. As she kept talking about their plans, I didn't say anything. I just kind of nodded along and let her tell her story, which she was gradually embellishing. I figured she was just trying to impress me or something, so I still wasn't getting any major alarm bells regarding her yet. But then she started showing me these paparazzi-style pictures of him on her camera roll. These were pictures she had clearly taken without his knowledge. She had pictures of where he worked, his friends, his family, and even more stalker shit. I felt sick to my stomach. You know that feeling when something is just wrong?
Yeah.
Like you know you're in danger and you need to get out?
Mm-hmm.
That's exactly how I was feeling. Every part of me was screaming, "Run!" So I told her I was getting tired and I stood up to leave. She flatly said, "Okay," and then I got out of there.
You're
The next
lucky.
day, she acted completely normal. I later talked to our male coworker and asked him why he seemed so tense after he spent time alone with her. He then let me know that she made a move on him. Well, let's just say, since then, I've become more in tune with my gut feeling, and I'll never ignore it. This is an ad by BetterHelp that million people help. Our list out of state was standard to meet up with coworkers to commiserate after the long, hot shifts. As such, a couple of coworkers asked me to come hang out with them and some guys that they knew who were in a rock band.
Mm.
I grew restless with the crowded studio apartment, so when I was ready to call it a night, I left. Two of the band members followed me outside, as I recall. They delayed my departure and started chatting me up. It was right around then that another coworker, whom we'll call Tina, pulled up in front with a
Hello,
slightly
Tina.
muscular blonde fellow whom I recognized as someone who worked at a different bar. It was the way that the van careened into the parking lot that caught my attention. Then the guy got out and stomped over to the passenger door. He then yanked the door open, grabbed Tina by her long blonde hair, and dragged her across the parking lot and into her apartment a few doors down. Tina was maybe 5 feet tall and thin as a whip. I can still see it in my mind, her feet kicking as she was grabbing at his unyielding clutches. "Aren't you going to help her?" I exclaimed to the two dolts who observed this with mild curiosity. They both indicated that they were not. I angrily huffed at them in disdain and went over there myself and busted through her apartment door. What I saw next spurred my anger. That guy had pinned her to the bed and he was choking her. So I grabbed a large, heavy lamp nearby and I held it like a baseball bat. After giving it a little test swing, I hoisted it over my shoulder at the ready. When he saw me, he instantly let go of her and started towards the door carefully. Watching him close, I warily kept my bat cocked and stared at him, never flinching, never looking away. Once he reached the door, he ran the rest of the way back to the van, and Tina ran after him. I yelled, "No!" Over her shoulder, she screamed back at me and said that he had her purse, which had all of her money inside. I told her it wasn't worth it. However, she reached the van and opened the door, despite his attempt to drive away. He leaned across and tried to hold the door closed, and then he grabbed her by her hair again. He then began to drive the van through the lot, while she tried to run alongside it as it picked up speed. Sprinting, I dove through the open door of the van and clutched at his hand. I was cursing at him, digging into his pressure points with one hand and clawing at him with the other. The two of us girls were now being dragged through the lot, and his hand remained wrapped tightly in her hair while her hands were wrapped around her purse. This only went on for a couple of seconds, but it felt like forever. His face eventually shifted from this maniacal smile to a painful grimace, and he finally let go. The two of us landed on the pavement with no more than scrapes and bruises, while he gunned the gas for the last few feet and furiously sped off down the road. The next time I saw Tina at work, she had a scarf wrapped around her neck to cover the bruises. Tina and I had never been particularly close, but after this happened, she made a point to thank me publicly at work for saving her life, twice. She got the authorities involved and charges were pressed against the lunatic. I never saw that blonde guy or the other boys in the band again. Remember, they did not want to step in and help at all. So honestly, good riddance
Boys.
to the bad rubbish. I think about that blonde guy once in a while, and I'm sure he's thought about me too. But it bears saying, to the blonde crap nugget who had enough sense to realize that he was up against someone who could deliver the hits, let's not meet. I'm from a small town in coastal British Columbia. One summer night, a friend of mine and I went to a well-known beach spot to lay out and look at the stars. There was only one other person at the beach at this time. It was a middle-aged man who had a whole setup, including a small fort